Nice to see you all from all over Germany, and thanks for joining us today. I'm really excited to share some experience with you. So I'm Katja. I work at gutefrage.net. Work as a product manager there. I have been with the company for 1 year and a half. Before Gutefrage, I was also working as a product owner with a focus on machine learning data products. And before that, I was doing my PhD in the field of automated text analysis, content analysis. And today, the title of my talk is Premoderation, Clean Content, and Happy Users. So just to have like a storyline flowing smoothly, what is actually Gutefrage? For those of you who don't know it, Gutefrage is a question-answer platform. We are the biggest in Germany, so the idea is that everyone can register and ask a question and to give an answer. It's completely free. You can go ahead right now, create an account, and start asking questions and helping out other folks out there. So currently we have about 2 million active users on the platform, and daily, so this is daily, we have something about 9,000 questions, 30,000 answers, and 30,000 comments posted on the platform. So you can imagine that's a lot of data and a lot of textual data. This is just a screenshot of the platform, how it looks. Like you see the question. So this question was one of the most popular questions in the platform for some time. It asks, for those of you who don't speak German, it asks whether Jack from Titanic had a chance to survive. And unfortunately, no, according to the community of Gutefrage. Then you have answers below the questions. You can write a comment. You can upvote, downvote, you can sort, and use all other awesome features that we have, including search. So that's sort of how the platform looks. Now, Gutefrage actually means, for those of you who don't speak German, Gutefrage means good question. Unfortunately, not all questions on the platform are good, and not answers are good. In fact, 10% of content is getting deleted on Gutefrage because the content violates Gutefrage guidelines, quality guidelines. It might be offensive or illegal or whatever. I'll get back to it later. How the deletion process, or how this process of finding that content looks in traditional work, let's say. Usually, we have moderators, right? Moderators, and they are just regular people who are Gutefrage employees. They sit in front of the computers, and they are literally all over the platform just to find bad content. So they either stumble upon it by chance, which, as you can imagine, not very efficient, and of course, lots of bad content still can lead to the platform. Or another way to find bad content is if it is reported by a user. So on Gutefrage, every user has a chance to report an item, like to complain, if they think that the item is against quality guidelines. And then this reported item goes again to moderators, and they have to handle it. So they say, okay, the complaint is justified, probably this item should be deleted, or it's actually a good item, a good question, and like we ignore the complaint. So that's a lot of work for moderators. I mean, it's all manual work. And as I said, of course, like when you have something like 70,000 items posted a day, it's impossible to capture everything, to check everything manually. So in order to make life of our moderators better, we at Gutefrage, we developed a system which is called Premoderation, right? So what is a Premoderation? Premoderation is a workflow. It's a set of routines, of rules, which capture suspicious items and hides them from users before and send them to moderators for manual review. So the idea is that if a user writes a suspicious item, which is potentially should be deleted, then the system, the premoderation system, it locks it. So the item never goes online, other users never see it. And then moderators, they check whether it's okay, and then they set it free, or they delete it if it really violates Gutefrage quality guidelines. let's see how it looks, right? So like sort of the user journey. I, as a user, I want to ask this question with the Frage. So the translation would be, am I the master of the universe? Am I the lord of the universe? And then like I write like some sort of explanation. Hey, yesterday I was elected to the master of the universe, and now all of you have to bring me some food. As you can imagine, this is not a very good question. It's not very informative, and it's not serious at all, right? So if I want to ask this question, and I will click on Weiter, which means proceed. This is the message that I will receive from the system, right? Me as a user. And the message says, hey, your question is not live yet, meaning that other users don't see it. We are checking it. It is being pre-moderated. And I, as a user, as someone who asked the question, I have to wait, and I have to find out what the destiny of my question will be. On the other side of the network, there are moderators. There are people who work for gutefrage, and this is what they see, right? So they have a dedicated place, a dedicated stream, where all of those pre-moderated questions captured by the system land. As you can see, we also specify why we think that this item is suspicious. So in this case, the system thinks that this is a trolling question, and trolling is not allowed in gutefrage. A moderator has to decide whether this question is indeed a trolling question, then they delete it, or if it's actually an okay question, they approve it. So open it for the audience online. Well, this is a trolling question. Indeed, it has to be deleted. So hopefully a moderator takes the right decision to delete it. And here I'm in my user journey window again. As a user, I receive a notification saying, hey, your question violates gutefrage guidelines, or the guidelines. We deleted it, so it's not live. And we also explain the user why, what guideline was violated. In this case, it was trolling, so we deleted this kind of question. Please, next time, be careful when you ask questions. Now, what is bad content and what is not allowed in gutefrage? So if you're curious, you can of course find like a really elaborated explanation on our website, but here just some rough ideas what is not allowed. Like hate speech, I think it's like quite clear, quite obvious why it's not allowed, right? Offense, we all have to be friendly and polite. It's not nice to offend other users. As I said, trolling is not allowed on the platform. Everything that is illegal is forbidden. For example, if an item contains a link to illegal streaming or downloading site, we will delete it. It's not allowed to advertise or to sell anything on gutefrage. We also do not allow duplicate content. So if you want to ask the same question multiple times, sorry, well, not gonna work. If we find an item which contains information dangerous for your health, we will delete it. Something like what happens if I take 100 pills of aspirin at one time. Adult content is not allowed to a certain extent. Of course, spam. We also do not allow contact requests on the platform, and all off-topic answers get deleted. So if you ask a question about politics and someone writes you an answer about an amazing curry they cooked yesterday, even though the curry was good, we will have to delete this answer. Right, maybe any questions up to now about what I just said? You can feel free to type some questions in the chat.
Yeah, I'm checking the chat. Maybe it would help because as all of the people don't hear when you're talking yet and you're not on stage, just type it in if you have one. I hear someone, but I don't know if everyone hears you who's talking. Sven, was that you? Okay, Sarah can hear you. Okay, yes.
So there is one question in the chat. If you decline a question, do you categorize it into the categories you mentioned? Yes, more or less. So if we decline a question, we send an explanation message to a user saying why the question was deleted, and it's more or less these categories. So there might be some others, but generally these are the categories I just mentioned. Another question, is there also any content removed without manual review? Well, we have some routines that remove like obviously bad content, like like if we have, let's say, like a list of links which are we know for sure they're not allowed, those we can remove without manual check, but generally speaking we are very careful with this, most of the content goes through manual check, so it's like really we're very, very careful. If we decide to delete something automatically, we have to be 200% sure that it has to be deleted. What is the main final mission of gutefrage? Okay, that's a philosophical question. Let's keep it until the end of the talk, and maybe we can discuss it in the casino. How many items are queued to be moderated and eventually not dismissed as inappropriate? I will talk about the capacity of moderation system later, and if you still have this question, let's then also get back to it at the end. I will talk about moderation capacity and during the talk.
Katja, there are also two more questions, but I don't know if you see them because Alexandra and Munich wrote it to nearby. Please make sure that you make it visible for everyone. So, Katja, in case you don't mind, I would read them.
Yes, please.
So Alexandra asked, does the user get redirected to the question that is similar to what he was asking?
Well, in case if the question is deleted, no, because there are no similar questions. They are all deleted, and there is no way to redirect. Generally speaking, yes, we have some recommendations on the website. So if you are somewhere on the platform, you can find similar recommended questions on the site. But that's also like a little bit off topic.
Munich asked, are there bots as moderators?
No, moderators are real people, no bots.
All right, Sven just mentioned, really important, some people are only asking questions to nearby, not to everyone. Yes, that's a good point. Sebastian asked, are you filtering also obvious, stupid, impossible questions, content-based?
Well, yes, like if they can fall under the category trolling as like something that I showed you before, right? It's pretty obvious that I am not the lord of the universe, that you don't have to bring me food, although I would be very happy. So yeah, we do filter those. If you mean like by content based, if you mean if we check whether the content is correct, like correctness, then not really. We don't really check for correctness, and most of the questions that we have, they don't really have like correct or wrong.
Stefan asked, do you also categorize good content in order to classify the complete content and maybe have balanced data?
Yes, good content is everything that is not deleted. It is considered to be good content.
Alexandra has also another question. You mentioned that a user's question is deleted if it's the same as something already out there. In this context, does the user have to look for the similar question himself, or he gets a link to it?
No, duplicate questions, they concern only if the same user wants to ask the same question again, then we will delete it. Although there are some exceptions, so you have like an option, a function to re-ask the question. So if you use this one, then the question will not be deleted. If you ask a question similar to something that other users ask, then yes, you will have a recommendation saying, hey, another user asked something similar, maybe this is something that you're also interested in. Shall I maybe continue for now?
Yes,
you guys
there are no questions for now.
Awesome. So just guys, if you have more questions, feel free to write them in the chat. Somewhere in the middle, I will have another break and I will take more questions. And then at the end, I hope that I will answer all of them.
Perfect.
For now, let's continue. So speaking of premoderation, the system, here is a little overview of what it looks like. So moderation has 13 rules, so it's a set of rules. Currently we have 13 of them. 5 of them are, so to speak, user behavior-based rules, so they reflect the user behavior. 8 of them are machine learning-based rules. The system exists since July 2019, so that's when the first rule was written and deployed, and the youngest rule was created in October last year. As you can see, since October last year, we haven't really worked in the system. It is live, but it does not really develop currently. There are 10 rules for questions, and there are 3 rules for answers. And every day, around 1,000 items are being pre-moderated, so are being processed by the system, which is 2.5% of all the items posted in gutefrage. Now, as I said, we have 13 rules. How to decide which rules should be written and should be live, how they actually come to life, these rules, right? So the first, and in my opinion, the most important thing, we need to identify the pain point, right? Because the rule is supposed to fight some problem. So where is the pain? The pain in our case can be the biggest deletion reason, right? So what moderators have to deal the most, or something that is the most harmful for users, right? Like you remember from all those reasons that obviously not all of them are equally important. It's probably way more important to capture something which is dangerous for your health than if it's a duplicate, right? Just for comparing like the harm can be done to the users. So once we have identified the pain point, we need to check whether we actually have data to train a model. And here, like, we're actually very lucky. As you still can remember when I was showing you how the premoderation workflow looks, that was a reason, right? And then when the moderator, like the reason why the sentence, the question is being premoderated, and then when the question is being deleted, a user receives a message also with a reason. So moderators, when they delete something, they really have to give a reason why this is a bad item. And for us, it's a nice side effect because we have label data, right? We have a question which has label, and as I said before, everything that is not deleted is a good label. So we have positive and negative examples in our data set. The next step, so we know what the pain point is. We have data to train a model. Now we have to build a prototype. This is usually something fast, just to have first result, proof of concept, if you will. How to decide whether the prototype is worth developing or not. How to check the prototype quality. So in our case, we use like pretty standard metrics to evaluate the performance of the model, which is precision, recall, and F1 score. And 2 other things that are important for our use case, first of all, is how many items this rule will capture per day. Because as I said, like all questions or answers, all items that are being pre-moderated, they go through manual check by moderators. And given the workload and the capacity, they cannot handle like millions of them. So this is an important KPI to track how many items per day will be captured by the rule. And the last but not least, it's very important really to take some sample of classified items and really read through them, whether what was classified, whether what was captured by the model makes sense at all. So if all of these checks are passed, so like performance is fine, daily ratio is fine, examples look good, then we go ahead and deploy the model. And then the funny part begins. So once the model is live, right? Like once a part of a live system, it has to be tracked. We constantly have to track how the model performs. We need to make sure that it still works. It works properly and it still does what it is expected to do. So for models that are live, I would define 4 KPIs which we use to track whether they're still working properly. So the first and probably the most important one is the rule precision. By precision, I mean how many items in percent, like how many percent of those items captured by the model actually get deleted, right? So like if, let's say, a model captures 1 items per day, how many of those actually get deleted by moderators? So we set up like sort of a threshold for ourselves. Like we say, like if the rule precision is 50%, we consider it to be an okay rule and we keep it live. The second KPI is the number of items per day. This is what I have already mentioned. It really has to do with moderators' workflow, right? So like if the rule will capture 1,000 items per hour, it's useless. Like no human moderator will be able to process. So the number has to be reasonable. And here, like in my slide, in this screenshot on the right, you can see like the number of items captured by a rule per day, and then you see this peak. So right when like when in the morning when you come to work and you open the dashboard, if you see something like this, you know, okay, something's wrong. You have to look into the model. So it's already a sign that something is going on there. The KPI number 3 is uniqueness. What I mean by that is how many items can be captured by this rule only. Of course, it's very normal that one question that can be overlaps between rules. That some questions they can be, or like you cannot even imagine what questions can be. They can be a troll, offense, pornography, and duplicate at the same time. And on top of that, some of the user behavior rules can be like a really bad user who only writes bad questions, and all of them get deleted. So it's actually okay that rules have overlap, but it has to be reasonable overlap. And of course, the higher the uniqueness rate, the better it is for the rule. And the last KPI is actual deletion reason. This is interesting. So if a rule captures a question, let's say, it doesn't really mean that moderators will delete it with the same reason. And it is especially true for user behavior-based rules. So, for example, we have a rule called user has deleted questions, meaning so if a user constantly writes bad questions that get deleted, then every new question that was asked by this user will be sent to premoderation. And then deletion reasons can be possible. It can be offense, it can be legal, whatnot. So it's actually also interesting to track what are the actual deletion reasons there. Probably I will have a little break here and take some more questions if there are any.
Yes, yes. Michael asked a question. Maybe just a question. Why are you not using recall as a KPI? I would assume that I want to find as much problematic content as possible, and afterwards I would care about precision.
Well, as I said, like for the prototype, we use also like recall and like F1, which is the balance metric with recall and KPI, right? But that's when we evaluate only the prototype. In live model, like you can imagine that like if we use recall and if we optimize for recall, then we can pretty much send every item to premoderation, right? Then recall will be 100%. But then all 30,000 questions that we have per day, they will be pre-moderated. And as I said, then we don't have so much capacity, moderators' capacity to check. So it's like really, it has to be like something in between so that our moderators can actually handle this, and that it makes sense that we control for appropriate amount of content. So precision in our case I think makes actually more sense. Yeah, and
I just wrote, okay, makes sense, thanks.
Okay.
And has anyone else questions? Samreen has a question. How balanced is your data for good and bad questions? I would assume a little unbalanced.
It is unbalanced, and I will have a couple of examples further. So you'll see some of data afterwards.
Okay. And Munish asked, during filtering, do you check, evaluate for the false positive and false negatives? How do you find the false negatives?
By filtering, you mean when we prepare data? Well, pretty like false negatives.
Filtering means premoderation. Filtering, he said, yeah.
Or like false negatives. So by false negatives in premoderation, so like if you mean everything that we don't capture, yeah, well, we know, yeah, like we know that we cannot capture all of them. Of course, some bad data leaks to the platform. Some of that data is not captured by pre-moderation rules. Some of it is not captured by moderators. Of course, it somehow survives, right? It's well, at least let's say currently it's not impossible. It is impossible to capture all bad items, but we go that direction. We try to reduce it.
All right. Anastasia asked, how do you manage imbalanced classes problem?
By there are techniques out there, so I cannot first of all, it really depends on the model, and like for different tools we have different models. Second, I really can't tell you all the details right now. As I said, like we haven't worked with the system for some time, and it's like really different. Some models get retrained, so that's something I really can't tell you, on spot how exactly we handle it. But there are methodologies out there. I think like developers also, when they train models, they like really try out different approaches and find what works the best.
Yeah, then we come to actually, you just mentioned it also. Stefan asked, how often do you retrain the models?
Well, there is no such a rule that how often. Like one, if we see that okay, we have let's say we have lots of new data, we have gathered lots of new data, maybe it's the time to retrain. That would be the case. Or if, say, we found out some new architecture that we assume will work better, or like we trained it for one specific problem, we say, okay, this works for this problem, let's try it for other classifiers as well. But it's not like really something regular. We have some routines that are scheduled to be retrained regularly, but it's not like really part of the pre-moderation. And yeah, as I said, it's not that we retrain it every week or every month.
All right, and Alison asked also, you do have false negatives if they are reported by a user, right?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay. And Nate asked, how are you analyzing text?
I think you'll have to elaborate on this question. Like, what do you mean by analyzing text? Which text exactly?
Maybe it would help to reframe or rephrase Nate also.
Yeah.
Okay.
And let's take the last question for now, and then I'll continue, and we'll get back to questions afterwards.
Yeah, good idea. So the last one for now is from Michael. Do you use custom models, own build stuff with PyTorch, TensorFlow, etc., or are you using an external API that you are calling, and which does the work?
No, we are using models that we built and train ourselves within different frameworks. So for prototyping, like it's up to a developer which framework to use. I think prototypes, most of them are done in Python. So yeah, we have. I've seen some TensorFlow. I've seen some PyTorch stuff, and for production we mostly use Stalpuskaya and J. So that will be for now then.
Yes.
We'll get back to questions, guys, afterwards.
I'll keep them for later.
Yes, thank you. Let's continue. So next I will tell you two stories, a failure story and a success story. I'll start with the failure story, and this is the story about the classifier which we had to take offline, and that's the hate speech classifier. So I guess it's quite clear that hate speech is bad and it's not allowed in the platform. It has to be deleted. Here is one of the examples of the hate speech question. So translating, that would be something like, why are all social educators so not smart and well-trained? Well, let's say, why are they also then so bad? Something like that. So that how do we decide that we need the hate speech classifier? The pain point is obviously there, right? So no one likes to read hate speech. No one likes when hate speech is addressed against you. So the pain point is there. Do we actually have data for that? In fact, we do. We had, by the time when we wanted to develop the rule, we had something like 12,000 examples of hate speech, which is an okay amount. And going back to the question about imbalanced data as examples for non-hate speech, so for good question examples, we took 10 times as much, so 120,000 good questions. We trained the prototype. The results of the model looked pretty good, so the F1 score was 0.7. The threshold we set up to be 0.6, and that threshold would give us about 50 hate speech items per day, which will be doable for our moderators. So that was the data of the prototype. We said, okay, looks good, let's take it live, let's deploy it. And then when it all went wrong. So after deployment, the model behaved not as it was supposed to behave. So the number of questions per day captured by the model was 10 times as much as what we expected. So it was 500 per day, which is already considerable workflow for moderators. Precision was only 16%. So only 16% of items captured by the rule were actually deleted. The rest were good questions. What was also interesting that actual deletion reasons, so why like those questions that were captured by hate speech classifier, they were actually deleted with the reason incomprehensible, trolling, provocation, and chat questions. Of course, there might be overlap. Of course, there might be a chat question which contains hate speech, and the border between trolling, provocation, hate speech is oftentimes very vague. But nevertheless, hate speech was not one of the top 4 deletion reasons for those items. So we looked into the data, we investigated what went wrong, and an interesting thing that we found out was that the model didn't actually learn the hate speech as a sentiment, but it learned those people or groups of people that the hate speech was directed against.
Yeah, the connection seems lost. I think everyone is still here. Katya probably shortly lost. Welcome back, Katya.
I'm still here. Hi, guys.
Yeah, perfect.
Cool. Okay. So I'll go. Where did you lose me? So the failure story, right? You've seen this, I guess, still. That the hate speech classifier, it actually learned who the hate speech is directed against and not the sentiment itself. And here are just some fun examples which were classified as hate speech, but actually they are not hate speech. So was Angela Merkel a good chancellor? Or why so many people have something against Muslims? Or is gutefrage more helpful than other platforms? So although all 3 examples here, they were classified as hate speech, but all of them are okay questions. So we took the classifier offline, so it's not a part of the score and given to other. Just anticipating your questions, like we haven't worked on it. We have some ideas how to improve it, but just due to other priorities and busy roadmap, we just didn't have time to improve the classifier. So currently, it's just waiting its time. And now success story. Success story is about troll classifier, so the classifier which is capturing troll content, you already had like an example of a trolling question before, right? When I was showing you some examples. And here is another example. It says, can I elect myself as the next US president? Right? It's pretty much stupid question, right? It's not feasible. So this is, we consider it to be trolling, and it has to be deleted. Why is actually trolling such a hard problem in itself, right? So trolling is and like just funny questions. There is like a very vague line there, very vague borderline. Sometimes it's just funny, sometimes people are just joking and it is still okay, but sometimes it's already not allowed, sometimes it's already trolling, sometimes it's bad. Then trolling can be bordering with provocation and offense, which is of course also bad and should be deleted. Trolling is also somewhat close to sarcasm and irony in many cases, and like I guess every one of you who ever worked with natural language processing and try to identify irony or sarcasm with machine learning, you know that it's like very hard. I mean, like even for people, it's all very often hard to capture irony, right? Leave alone machines. Another hard thing about trolling is that there are barely any grammatical or lexical patterns that a machine learning model can learn. So there are no really hooks for the model to capture, right? To know that this is trolling. But it is a pain point for us. Trolling questions are one of the top deletion reasons. We have many of them per day. So we decided to accept the challenge and try and train troll classifier. Unfortunately, I don't have the results of the first prototype here. So, but these are the performance KPIs of the live model, which is part of the live system. And it looked surprisingly good. We were surprised ourselves that it performed so well. So the rule accuracy is 40%. It is a little bit below of the 50% threshold, but we decided to keep it because it's still good. It is 70 questions per day, which is fine, which is doable for moderators. The uniqueness rate of the rule is 56%. So it means that 56% of those questions captured by the rule none other rule can capture, and recall is 40%, right? So this rule can capture 40% of all troll content posted on gutefrage, which is pretty cool, given that the problem is pretty hard. Yeah, like as I said, like trolling is hard to identify, to understand, even for humans, leave alone machines. So if you want to give it a try, go ahead with the target, try to ask a trolling question and see if we can capture it and delete it. Okay, let me take a few more questions and I will move to the last part of my talk. Little speaker, I'm back.
Obviously.
Okay, the question from the last time. I'm not sure if I really tried, but what do you mean by ML-based rules? What is the difference with respect to the user-based rules? So the user behavior-based rules, this is just if, let's say, if a user has deleted question, we will send all his new questions to Premoderation. This is a user behavior-based rules. Or user, a new user, right? Like if it's a new user, so like for the first 24 hours, we will send all new questions of new users to Premoderation or something like this. So it's just if the user meets certain criteria, then we send his questions or answers to Premoderation. And machine learning based rules, this is what I have just shown to you. So we have data, we train a model, and we have the live rule. You're not the with hate speech classification. You're not the only one having troubles with hate speech classification. Something similar seems to have happened to you too. Maybe. I joined later. Did you tell us something about the architecture of the model? No, I haven't told you anything about architecture of the model, and it's different for every rule. There is no like one single architecture. So, for example, for duplicates, what I can tell you for duplicates, we have it's not like even machine learning. It's just the distance, wording of the distance what we use, distance between two questions. So, like no real fancy machine learning there. And for others, for some of them we use LSTM. Yeah, but it's like really different for each single model, for each single rule. Okay, I had learned that data scientists usually aim for a threshold of accuracy over 80%. Why did you decide that 50-60 is enough for your model? So we have we have to find the balance between like really controlling the content, so we can allow ourselves a bit more than like not 80 but 50%, but just to make sure that we control as much of content as possible. Of course, right? In ideal world, if we had endless resources like of moderators, it would be ideal that all questions are read by humans and evaluated by humans, because like with machine learning, you can never achieve performance as the humans can. Especially when we speak about such hard cases as trolling, right? Like even among moderators, you cannot have one perfect agreement. One person may consider this question to be okay, another person may consider it to be bad and will delete it. So just to have this balance between controlling as much as possible, given that we only have so many moderators and that they only have 24 hours a day, even less than 24 hours a day. Not always they work at night. Right, so that's why for our case, 50% was something that still was doable, but also brought us value and helped to keep the content clean. Any transformer-based models? No, as far as I know, not no. Good. So keep on posting your questions in the chat. I will get back to them at the end, and I am moving to the last part of the presentation, which is about users, right? So if you remember, the title of my talk was how to keep content clean and how to make your users happy. So I hope by now you more or less understand how we keep our content clean with the help of premoderation. What does it have to do with users, right? How come they become happier if we actually delete the questions, right? Now I'm putting on my product owner hat and speaking from the user's perspective. So when we speak about premoderation, there are two groups of users, two types of users. First, who are like direct users, are moderators, as I said. And the second group of users are actually those who write questions and answers on the platform. So for moderators, like as I mentioned, like before we had premoderation, they really had to be all over the place on the platform and search for bad content. Of course, they had some routines, they had some suspicious users, they of course were checking all new users, but still lots of bad content was leaking to the platform. Another way was to rely on reports by other users, but of course also not everything, not all bad content is being reported. So for moderators, premoderation is actually a very powerful tool that helps them to organize the workload and workflow better. They can actually adjust the threshold to control how many items can come in per day, depending on their workflow and how many they are currently. They can adjust. They can activate and deactivate rules, right? Like if they know that this rule is the daily rate is very high and currently I'm alone, I cannot handle, so they can actually deactivate the rule. And they can adjust the duration for the approval of the item, right? So all items, they don't sit in premoderation forever, because as I said, they don't go online, and if for 12 hours the user doesn't see his question live, they will be nervous. So they can actually adjust how long the item can sit in premoderation, in how many minutes it will go live if the moderator didn't have time to handle it. And we received a lot of positive feedback from moderators saying that, yeah, Premoderation actually made their work way easier. Now they have all, maybe not all, but many suspicious items in one place, in one special stream, where they just go there and click delete, not delete, delete, not delete. So the first user group is happy. What about the second user group, right? Like our users. Of course, it's not nice to read bad content, offensive content, or something that is dangerous or illegal. So the more, the less bad content, the more good content we have in the platform, the better. So this graph I'm showing you here, I will explain it. It turned out that one bad question triggers multiple bad answers. So by capturing and deleting one bad question before it goes online, we avoid multiple bad answers. So in case some of you wondered why we only have 3 rules for answers and 10 rules for questions, that's exactly the reason. Because by deleting a bad question early on, we avoid bad answers. And we avoid a snowball effect. And here, like in this graph, you can see the amount of deleted items over time. It's like the trend is like down, right? So it actually works. And the second metric which we use is a reporting rate. As I mentioned before, users can report bad items. And this is a cool feature as such, but of course, if users didn't have any bad content, they wouldn't report anything, right? We only have good content. So by here, like this dotted line shows when we started, when the first Premoderation rule went live, and you can see that after that, we developed the system, we added the rules, and the reporting rate, it went down. So even though the amount of asked questions and written answers grows, the reporting rate constantly goes down since Premoderation was taken live, which I think is a cool result. And hopefully our users are also happier to have more good qualitative content on the platform. So that was it from my side. Thank you all for your attention. And I'm happy to take the rest of the questions.